Hey, Christina, how are you today?
Good.
Thanks so
How are
much for,
you?
I'm good, I'm good, I'm well. Thank you so much for joining me on this chilly morning. I'm happy to be wearing my sweater and my little beanie cap today. It looks like you're all bundled up too.
I am. It's cozy.
Like
Cozy times.
finding the cozy sweaters, the big, blankets to wear. Do you guys have Snuggies still? Do you know what those are?
Oh my God, I so remember those, but I never had one. I never had one. I just basically I don't know, used a blanket and somehow morphed it to
I
my
know,
body.
somehow, but a Snuggie is like this like coveted thing I think that people order every
Right.
Christmas on that as seen on TV commercial.
Totally.
Love
Yeah.
that. I never had one. What I do have is my dad's old like big puffy like army kind of sleeping bag. And I
Yeah.
just brought that out camping the other week on the beach, and it was so lovely to be all snuggled up in it. I love this
Oh, that
time of
sounds
year.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I am a sun worshiper and I do enjoy the seasons. That's very nice. So I haven't seen you for a while I haven't seen you since what? Did I see you in July when I was in California? Or I haven't seen you since I
No.
left. Ah, so wow, it's been almost a year since I've squeezed you in person. I need to remedy that soon. Um, and I thought it would be really nice to connect since we used to be in conversation quite a bit more when I was in San Jose, and I really appreciated our time together. And it's been lovely watching you grow and evolve into your practice and your business, and watching and knowing like what you were creating at the beginning and to see where it is now has just been very beautiful to witness. And I wanted to provide a space for you to talk about that and share. And also, as we were getting on the call this morning, the theme of boundaries came up around life, work, and purpose, and what that looks like for each of us, and what kind of what kind of boundaries are healthy for each of us to set for ourselves as we have these relationships with our partners, whether they be intimate or platonic. So, first, I'd like for you to share a little bit about what you're doing, and then I would like for you to share a little bit about the boundaries that you're working on for yourself at the moment.
Great question. Oh, so gosh, I hate talking about myself, so it's so weird sometimes, but I mean, I guess so. I've been a
We'll address
designer.
that part of it later in the conversation, why you
I
hate
knew.
talking about
See, this
yourself.
this is this is why Jessica, I love Jessica. She goes to the real level, not the surface level. But no, I've been a designer all my life. I went to school for design. And just how I've applied it probably is the morphous and the evolution of my growth. But I would say now I'm really starting to kind of find my purpose, you know? Um, and I think it's at the intersection of healing and design.
Hmm.
And so that's really where my passion lies, is being involved in those two areas and having design come through and show up that way.
Hmm.
So whether, the healing, just because the healing journey has been such a, you know, like a turning point. I wouldn't even say a turning point, right? I don't know, I had a real, what is that, dark night of the soul, which everyone kind of goes through.
For like the last
The
2 years, I think
tower.
the whole collective, yeah.
Yeah. The tower moment, the burning, everything's on fire.
Uh-huh.
But I experienced that in my life. And I think what we label, as society as like a midlife crisis, right?
Hmm.
And so, because everything I kind of related to was from my career. So ounce of um every ounce of like goodness was through that portion of my life, which was really just not the way I wanted to live. And I think it would became more and more evident as I, grew into my person. I became a mother. And so, yeah, I just went through this evolution of like, who am I? Who am I? And what am I here to do?
Hmm.
Really? And it was a great awakening. And as you awaken, which this, Jess, like just you meet people, things happen, and yeah, it just becomes this amazing journey that you realize that, wow, I really have been asleep this entire time of my life. And so yeah, like yeah, I'd say like my work now is fine. Like I'm finally getting to the beginning of like where I'm supposed to be and
Mhm.
who I'm supposed to show up as. And so I have my own design studio. I work with clients on doing branding and web design. But it's really deeper than that. Like we really, I do branding in the archetypes realm. So we find their archetypes. I love working with archetypes just because again, they give us like a foundation, but it's not necessarily like this is it for the rest of your life. You
Yeah.
know, it kind of evolves just how we evolve. And so I really try to approach design in that sense. Like, who are you right now?
Do you want to elaborate on what an archetype is for those that don't know what archetype means?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, archetype, how, I mean, because there's so many definitions of how it can show up. And so for me, like really what I loved to study was Carl Jung, like that whole philosophy of like archetypes and how they're parts of the personality that show up. And it's kind of like, you know, with Joseph Campbell, how he talks about the hero's journey, right? And so this evolution of like as in life we have this journey and as we're journeying through we kind of have these stories or these personalities and traits that come through in certain parts of that story and that evolution. And so for me archetypes is a way of really honoring that part of you, you know. And
What is one example of an archetype?
so like one of my archetypes is the high priestess.
Ah, the card that I pulled this morning. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so the high priestess, and I would say it's an archetype of mine that I've really like tried to push down, like not show up. Um, and
I feel you,
because
girl. I feel you.
you know some of these archetypes like they stem from this notion that they're bad or evil or somehow in this witchcraft, you know,
Hmm.
area. And so so yeah, so the high priestess is one of my archetypes. And I would say like in my experience when I go through this archetype work with people that they're usually like five or six that they're really trying to express. And
Hmm.
again, those change, you know, as they, you know, evolve and flow through their journey. But at that one point, we really identify five to six. So the high priestess is mine. And, you know, the high priestess is all about ritual, like ritual is sacred, right?
Hmm.
And this idea of making spaces that are beautiful to honor that ritual. And so like, you know, I could go deeper into like, I had a reading and one of them was like, I was an Egyptian high priestess. And so
Uh-huh.
like, and then what happens is that you get these archetypes and you get the definition or the meaning behind them. And you realize, oh my God, that's why I do this. That's why I do A, B, and C, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, that's been so just so eye-opening and just so awakening for me because I finally understand why I do the things I do, you know, and I can't explain it, but like this archetype can help me start weaving like why do I respond to things and why do I feel certain things in my gut. And so I do, you know, I do create altar spaces and I love
Hmm.
it. You know, I create floral grids, I create crystal grids, and I always wondered like, why do I do this? I know I love like pretty things, but I realized like that high priestess energy within me really wants me to create that, you know, that's a part of my expression. And so what I found is that as we start to identify the archetypes within us, we start to realize, well, now that I've identified them, I can start to express them. And that's the idea behind what I do is I want to make people comfortable enough so that they can show up to fully express who they are. And I think you do that same work, Jess. Like you want people to heal themselves so that way they can really show up as their truest expression. And so for me, that's been related back to Dharma, which
Hmm.
is the definition of Dharma. When we're at our highest expression of self, then we're truly at our highest joy. And so, or our greatest joy.
Hmm.
And so for me, being able to do that for people, at least that's the goal, right? Is to get them to do the work, but have it not feel like work, you
Yeah,
know?
to share a
And
different perspective so they can do the work without it feeling like work.
yes, yeah. And it's just like it's truly who they are and who they want to be. And a lot of times as children in society, we get told that certain ways in how we express ourselves are either bad or labeled bad. And so there's a lot of stories around it, right?
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it's really breaking apart those stories. And, to me, expressing myself in the way that feels most authentic and
Hmm.
joy, like it's literally freedom.
Yeah.
And anytime I'm in that moment of freedom, I truly feel present. And when I feel present, I feel source. I feel connected. I feel like, yeah, there's no aloneness. There's no I,
You
and
remember
that's,
that you are your source.
yeah.
Absolutely. I love the work that you're posting on your Instagram account too. All of the beautiful pictures and the colors and the weaving of words into the beautiful graphics that you're creating are just amazing. I love how your site has blown up. So many people looking at your beautiful creations. I really love seeing that.
Well, okay, so the crazy thing is like that has truly been through the work because I consider you a mentor, like you're a mentor of mine, and so is
Likewise.
oh. And so that beauty you see is such a reflection of all the beautiful work that we did together. Like I truly believe I wouldn't be at that point if that connection wasn't there for us. So it's like, yeah, I try to think about my mentors. I try to think about the people that inspire me or who I want to inspire. And that really is like I created that account just so I can express myself honestly because
Awesome.
I wasn't at that place where I could. And so it was just like it's so beautiful to yeah, to witness that and to also just yeah, be in such gratitude for the people that helped me get there, and be able to like even pass my fear of wanting to put myself out there. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, using that's what Instagram is for, like just being able to express yourself, and it doesn't matter what people think or say. Like that's part of how I've worked on setting boundaries for myself too, meaning like around how I let people affect me and how I allow myself to get sucked in, or if I am able to simply observe and just be a part of the experience, right? Like my friend
Yeah.
Rachel that I was talking to yesterday, I did a recording with her for the podcast, and she was talking about how she dropped some information on her Instagram page and was like, okay, I just got to drop it and walk away. I got to drop it and not go back and not comment, not get sucked into the conversation or the arguments that may or the disagreements that may come from whatever she had posted. And it was a really great reminder of, self-preservation and self-love and not allowing what you feel and what you want to freely express is not possible for people to squash it, right? Like they can try all they want, but ultimately it's you that allows you to feel how you want to feel about it. And I really appreciate watching people like you and Rachel and other people posting what is coming from their heart and what they're feeling as their truth and not giving a fuck what other people think or say. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt sometimes or doesn't make us think twice. And that's what that platform is for. That's what social media is for. There is no, like when people start to get censored because they're expressing something that some other group doesn't like, this is a red flag to me. And this is telling me like, whoa, hey, something's happening here. And we are
Yeah.
all in this. I mean, United States is the free world as far as I'm concerned, and it's not really free. I get that, but we don't experience what people in third world countries experience here.
Yeah.
Like we have
Yeah.
opportunities. So when when we start to express ourselves, it's really beneficial for us to be aware of what boundaries are for ourselves, each one of us. What are some of those boundaries for you right now in work and in your personal life, and how does it feel when you're actually practicing it?
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly the biggest lesson for me in boundaries is that it's practice, like
Yeah,
it's not saying, "Oh, I've got this figured out and I'm going to set this boundary and everything's going to fall into place." Like
I ain't
honestly,
got shit figured out.
yeah. Exactly. And just when you like almost are at that precipice of like saying that out loud, it's like the universe is like, "Nope." So,
You're so
um
funny.
yeah, 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 you're hilarious. Yeah, no, I mean, boundaries for me have been such a powerful tool in creating space for my growth because I am like, I'm not a former because I still do it sometimes, but I'm such a people pleaser. Like that's
You
been
can be a
my
former people pleaser. That can be a news story for sure.
yeah.
I honor
Okay,
that.
so former people pleaser, learner of codependency,
Mhm.
100% relationships. That was my normal. That was what I learned through a lot of the relationships that I saw growing up, being younger,
Yeah,
and also being a woman, right? Like my needs come last before everyone else's.
yeah.
I come from a Mexican American background on my dad's side, so the heritage there is definitely infused with that kind of misogyny and
Machismo.
think, yep, machismo. And so I grew up with that. I grew up like learning that to be the norm, learning that to be okay. And really this idea of boundary setting is new to me. And so um how I do is I practice physically getting back into my body. I think that's helped me with boundaries a lot
How do you
because I
do
just
that?
uh exercise. So I do it through movement. So
Hmm.
whether that be like, I have this amazing class that I love that, my husband totally makes fun of me for doing, but I finally found an exercise practice that I love. It's called The Class, and it has great music, and it's literally like aesthetic dancing. You're just like
Nice.
free moving for an hour. You're literally like getting sounds out of you. You sound primal. Like it's very much connecting to like
Is
a
it in person?
primal. No, it's I found it during COVID. They have classes in New York and LA or studios.
Cool.
Um, and I don't think there's one in San Francisco yet, but I'd love to do it in person. I mean, the teachers are phenomenal. You do a meditation at the end. So it incorporates all the like beautiful things like I love and I gravitate to. So if I don't do that, I feel it. If I don't have some type of movement, I definitely feel it in my body. So I feel like that's the probably the number one way I get back in touch.
Has Eliseo joined
um
you for a class yet?
no. Yeah, right. But Max has done it and he's so
Nice.
cute, like he loved it. And yeah, so it's just been that is actually one of there's so many like jewels that I found during COVID. So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say that COVID lockdown was bad. I mean, it was bad
No,
in
not
the
at
sense
all.
of like people dying and that happening, but I found so much beauty in
It
and
allowed
that's
people to be creative and connecting.
yeah, like I truly embrace this idea of alchemizing, right? Being an
Hmm.
alchemist, like
Hmm.
incorporating the dark and the light. And so anyway, so that was something that I definitely do to get back in my body. I think meditation is amazing for that as well.
Hmm.
You're just able to get still and to listen. And I think though that's part of the work that I think I'm always practicing is like getting still and
Hmm.
listening. Like, what does my body need today? Well, I should just ask it.
Yeah.
you know so I feel like getting back into my body is probably the best way that I can tap into that. And let's see.
Do you feel when you're tapping back into your body, there's some resistance sometimes to being
Oh
there?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of the body holds so much, right? And that's how we hold our trauma. And it's funny, I was just
Hmm.
talking about this with a friend of mine. I had an amazing retreat that I went to, and we saw like a masseuse, and she wasn't even like a masseuse. She was literally a healer. And she like certain parts of my body she touched, and I literally like completely released, cried. Like, so it's just, we don't give this the space of being human and also being divine, these
Yeah.
these two counterparts. And so the body is really like, oh, it's magnificent and how much it can hold, but there's also like, oh my god, they can hold a lot.
Hmm.
And so yeah, there's so much resistance in me going there sometimes because it's painful.
Yeah.
And thinking about things that live in the body and traumas that live in the body, it's like I don't think you should do it unless you're doing it with somebody or someone that can help facilitate that, right? um and I think that's important, is finding that community, that person, that mentor that can really guide you. Because if I didn't have that and I was like trying to release, traumas from my body, I don't think I know how to do it, or at least it would be, yeah, there's just something about experiencing it with other people and
Yeah.
going through it with other people that makes it really, really powerful. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
From
But
my own personal perspective there,
yeah.
it's like as you work with people, because in the beginning of my journey 15 years ago, I was going to see someone regularly for Reiki and sound healing. And sometimes I would just pass out for like 4 hours, and I would come back and she'd wake me up, and I would come back and I'd be like, well, how long was I out? She's like, you've been here for 4 hours. And I was like, oh, well, why didn't you wake me up? She's like, well, they were working on you. Like work was happening. I was here to hold the space. And she wouldn't even be touching me. She would literally be sitting in the corner of the room reading a book when I would come back. And it was like,
Wow.
oh, interesting. And then as time went on, I started to participate more consciously because whatever was being cleared was enough to get me to the point where I would remain conscious during the sessions
Yeah.
and then start to work through the things with her. And then that led me to my own practice and to be able to do that on my own, because ultimately that's the goal, right? So right now, wherever you're at is perfect, and learning or I don't, learning implies that it takes time. Remembering instantly
Mm-hmm.
that you
Hmm.
have all those answers within you is what you're doing right now, is remembering, right? Remembering the innate ability to heal within yourself, by yourself, through your source. And we get to be all these like counterparts that come in to get like play in the life of Kristina when she chooses and when she invites in. And that can be the source of your remembering, right? Through other
Yeah.
people who have different awarenesses at different times, not better or worse, not more or less, simply different, to assist and uplift each of us as we're all moving through it together.
I like how you talked about like, because I think the idea or what I was trying to get across is that doing it with someone else or someone that could facilitate is like they hold space and create a safe container for that to
Yes.
happen, because I don't think you can move forward if you don't feel safe, and feel held. And so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was really like something that I experienced that I feel like totally like sent that
Mm-hmm.
um allowed me to grow and allowed me to release it, and like you said, remember who I was truly.
Who you are
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. It's a very interesting progression, because at first to me it did not feel like I was doing enough, or I didn't know enough, or I
Mm,
would never reach that level of awareness or consciousness. And not that we ever reach complete enlightenment. I feel like enlightenment, like people say, oh yes, reaching enlightenment, and it seems to be like this story that people tell just to kind of make themselves feel better about where they're at. Enlightenment is kind of an egoic thing for me. None of us are as enlightened as we will ever be until we leave this body, right? Like it can be a goal, and it can also be a hindrance here in our present practice, because we think sometimes, oh well, we've reached this certain point, but it's not really a destination. It's a journey, and it is lifelong. And the moment you think you have arrived, like you were saying earlier, the universe kind of goes, oh, you're funny, like you're hilarious. Yeah, okay, here's another lesson for you,
yeah,
take
here you
that.
go.
And it's not because it's punishing you. It's not about the universe punishing you. It's simply reminding us, like, hey, where are you at right now? What are you feeling? Tapping into my body. What is my mind saying right now? What is my heart saying? What am I feeling in the body? And are they connected?
Right,
Are they aligned? Right?
right.
What kind of boundaries are you working with, like in your personal life? Like how is the work that you are expanding and evolving into bleeding into the personal life sometimes? Because you have a husband, you have a kid, you have family that you're with quite often, and that could be challenging at times to express when that's wanted.
My goodness, yeah. My goodness. I mean, that's one of the areas that I've been so, as because it's crazy. Like I've been growing this business, right? So I consider myself an entrepreneur in a
Hmm.
sense of like, growing a business, starting a business, and being in that space of like, wow, like I do everything, right? I do accounting, I
Hmm.
do, I do marketing.
Yeah.
So um, for me, it's kind of been two. It's like, okay, as I grow and expand, what help do I need? Like, what do I need to set boundaries for myself of what I should be doing and what I can give someone else, right?
Hmm.
So that's been a definitely part of the growth and more of the business side. And then yes, like how am I the idea of this business and my personal life because it does. It's like I'm working probably the most hours I've ever worked.
Hmm.
And also I really enjoy this work, and I've never been in that space, Jess, of like
Yeah.
working so much, but really enjoying it. And so it's funny, I don't know if you know a lot about human design,
Hmm.
but I've got into human design a little bit and I've had my chart read. And so I'm a manifesting generator. And
Me
so,
too.
oh, of course you are. That's
I love
amazing.
that.
And I love it. I love the chart that was given to me, and it's so beautiful, just the way she writes it.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times with manifesting generators, like you let things come to you, right?
Hmm.
There's no expelling of energy as far as receiving, but there once you do receive and you're in your joy and your passion, it's like you're like this, you're like go go go,
Yeah.
because that's that's how you work, that's how you, yeah, just process and communicate and are in your passion and your joy. And so yes, it's been a learning experience. Okay, well, how do I still honor that within myself, but how do I make sure that my personal relationships
Yeah.
aren't being, you know um you know
Ignored.
aren't exactly. And so that's why I'm doing the, no social media in December, taking a
Hmm.
month off and resting. I'm only having one client for the next 2 months, even though like all of these people are coming to me. Like I've also been boundary and saying no. Like no is a real big boundary, and it's simple,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
really simple. And because I got in this mindset of thinking like, well, the universe is giving me all these things and sending me these people all my way, so I have to take it, right? Like I have to take it on
Hmm.
because like if I don't, then I'm not in
How does that
gratitude.
story feel?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and it was so eye-opening to realize. And that's when I checked in with my body, because I
Mm.
was like, I was tired, I was grumpy, like, yes, I enjoy doing this work, but Kristina, like, how are you feeling right now? And so again, like I said no a lot to
Yeah.
people, and I realized too with the cycles with fall coming, like I just,
Hibernation.
yes, like honoring that like flow. And I think that's been a huge part for me too, is this idea of really being in connection with the cycle of like where we're at in
Hmm.
seasonality, what that means for my body.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been really helpful, as well as like getting me to kind of connect
Who
back into me.
who did you do your reading with for the human design?
Oh, Erica Jones, Erica
Okay.
something Jones. She's awesome, and I think she has a special right now. But yeah, she does a chart, and she also facilitates groups. I'm
Oh,
not
cool.
there yet. Like I'm taking it real slow with human design, so I've literally only read like parts of it because it's so much information to
Hmm.
digest, and I just want to sit with it. And so just even that portion of like not doing anything, like things just magnetically come to us, right? And
Yeah.
so that's been super helpful.
Yeah. The things that magnetically come to you is because you're doing the work to clear your channel so they can come to you.
Yes,
So when we
exactly.
are when we are having downtime, this has been coming for me a lot since I moved here, and actually the whole year before I moved to Texas was okay, I'm not doing a whole bunch, but things are still happening. How does this work? Like what does this really mean to me? And I started really paying attention to that more often. where like when I said yes to the universe, when it said to move to Texas, like a whole bunch of money like fell into my bank account from like
Right. I
grants and
remember
everything
that.
from last
Yes.
year. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I applied for all this shit last year and it didn't come until I arrived where I was supposed to be or where I was being asked to be. And then everything just went, here you go. You don't have to stress, you don't have to worry. Make an effort, yes, keep doing the work and keep digging deeper into yourself, keep getting to know yourself even more on a deeper level, really getting into that authentic you and being okay with the shadows too, because that shit's going to come up as well, because that's part of the work. And
Yeah.
understanding that they are simply as valuable as the light parts of you that you're sharing out of love, because the darkness comes from love as well. Well, we're all born in a dark womb, right? And that's the place where we come from. So it would make sense that it's part of our experience here in the physical reality too.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about tapping into your body a little bit more, I'd also like to talk about this concept we talked about before we got on the call of sacred rage. And when we tap into our body, like, and we're feeling shit like that, like, whoa, number one, I didn't even realize I was holding on to that shit. Like, I've got some symptoms here physically, and I've got some feelings, but no idea that that was inside of me. And then accessing it. And then what is accessing it? And then like, are we able to use it as fuel instead of being in the state of anger?
Yeah. Or reacting from that state, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's what I that's what I tend to do. It
Right there
shows
with
up,
you, sister.
yeah, shows up real ugly.
Yeah. It's not nice. It's not pretty. And it's
Yeah.
part of the experience in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it also manifested for me in physical ailments, right?
Mhm.
So like, I have a cyst and fibroids, and so again, like I I mean, I just know in my heart that
Mhm.
the physical symptoms we experience are so connected to our traumas, to the emotional
Emotions.
body, mental body, And
Mhm.
so for me, it's like, just like you said so beautifully, like clearing out is like the biggest thing for me. And again, that practice of like ecstatic dancing, not caring what I look like being in complete just movement where my body doesn't feel like it literally can do whatever it
Mhm.
wants to express itself.
Yeah.
Getting to that point, that's really the work of that movement, is allowing myself like show my sacred rage
Yes.
or you know but at least like that's really the work, is allowing myself to come to that point where I just feel like my body I let my body my it's almost like my mind is like not a backdrop, but it allows my body to come through. It
Yeah.
allows my body to experience and move in the way that it needs to. And so that's where you get to the point where you like literally make a sound,
Mhm.
if you think about babies, and there's a beautiful practice that we do where we shake.
Yeah.
And if you see animals in the wild, like
Mhm.
when they're fear, in fear or whatever, they're literally like shaking their body. And
Yeah. After they
so
experience the fight or flight, they shake it off.
yes, and
We don't
so
do
that
that.
no, I
We
honestly
hold
believe,
it and hang
yes.
on to it and carry it.
And babies, beautiful. They have tantrums,
Yeah.
and in Western society, that's not considered like good, but
Yeah.
in actuality, that's a natural response to
Hmm.
something that they want to express that they can't verbally say.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's like 3 minutes where you're literally like shaking your body, and it's like, where do you want to shake? Are you
Yeah.
feeling it in your jaw and your head? And so yeah, I find that release so much of it paves the way for that rage to come through, right? It
Hmm.
paves the way for that primalness to come through. And so I literally look crazy when I'm doing my workout, but it
Amazing.
feels so good. So yeah, letting that go, letting that out, allowing that to move through has been really, really good. And I also think breath work, right? Like
Hmm.
breath work, I used to do a lot of I know a lot of people that do Kundalini and do that, like what is it, the breath of fire? Like
Hmm.
that's super, super helpful too. So even just doing the breath of fire for 2 minutes every morning, like
Yeah.
another way, right? Another way where you're allowing the clearing,
Yeah.
the ability for that space to come through where you're able to express the sacred rage.
Yeah. And resetting the nervous system while you're doing it too,
Yes,
because as you release it, everything will come back into order in a different way because you have released what was
that's right.
living there.
Yeah,
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 rage is, I mean, it's looked at as such this negative thing, for people to express, but rage and anger can be also worked with as a fuel, right? Because if something happens and we feel like rejected or we feel angry that something didn't happen the way that we think in our limited mind it should have happened, then we can look at it and go, okay, cool, well, I can sit here and I can continue being angry. I can continue being in this state of anger, or I can work with this as like a push. Like, do you want to sit here and not feel good and be angry, or do you want to do something about it?
yeah,
How can I transmute that anger into the fuel? What can that
yeah,
fuel be? What's the opposite of anger? Love, respect, forgiveness, compassion, kindness, gentleness, right? Like, how can I shift into one of those states of being and work with that fuel behind it and take me, or catapult me, push me,
yeah,
encourage me into that other state of being that I know I can create from the heart, right? Because anger doesn't come from the heart. Anger is the surface level emotion that we're experiencing, and something underneath the anger is really what we are wanting to express, whether that be sadness, rejection, frustration, depression, whatever
mm,
it may be. And really coming down to, like Louise Hay would say, it's all about the baseline of not feeling good enough. What do I not
mm,
feel good enough about?
that's
What's not
right.
good enough about me? Who told me I'm not good enough? Where does that come from? And let's go back to the start. Let's go back to the root, right?
Yeah,
Like hating to talk about yourself,
yeah,
right? Like, where
yeah,
does that come from? Why would you hate to talk about yourself? You have all these amazing things that you're doing. You're growing, you're expanding, you're sharing from your true heart, authentic
mm,
self. It comes through in your artwork, Kristina. It comes through in your posts and the writings that you share with it, the deck of cards, the tarot cards that you've made, right? Like, working with those to share with people and to help them,
yeah,
support them in seeing their self in a different perspective too, as you grow into the beauty of yourself and really appreciate the beauty in yourself.
mm. I mean, yeah, I know exactly where it comes from. um, that's the fucked up thing. It's like I can't like claim ignorance. Yeah, because I've done so much work around. I
Yeah,
have amazing mentor Yadi, and we did a lot of work around limiting beliefs, right? And
yeah,
so a lot of this is very, people work with this term a lot in
yeah,
therapy and in life coaching. But we all have limiting beliefs, right? And so the idea that there's these beliefs that stay with us, and these stories, whether it's
hmm,
through culture, whether it's ingrained through our parents. Oh, I love how Don Miguel Luis talks about it. It's a beautiful book, The Four Agreements.
yes,
But just these stories that we've built up about ourselves, or the beliefs that we have on ourselves. And so one of my limiting beliefs is worthiness. Like, it connects back to I don't feel worthy,
yeah,
and a lot of that, there's a bunch of different, I mean, that's the root of it. And then there's these branches that branch out from it.
hmm,
And so a lot of the branches are connected to my lineage, finding out about, my history and my ancestry and what they went through has been extremely enlightening,
hmm,
because it influenced my grandparents, my great grandparents, and my parents. And so there's these limiting beliefs that just run through our lineage, right? And then
yeah,
there's us, having this human experience, and so really my work is to teach myself that I am worthy, and to also teach other people that they are worthy,
yeah,
and so I know that inability to want to share and to be seen, and to um, a lot of that stems from the worthiness piece, and that's really the biggest lesson for me
yeah.
to heal. Yeah, and
Yeah, I
to
feel you there. I'm definitely can relate. There's this fear of success, like in quotation marks, like whatever success is for each person, achieving our goals and being who we are meant to be here in this space and time.
Mhm,
And sometimes knowing, like that feeling, that knowing inside, like I have a grander purpose on this planet, in this body, in this time. And knowing what it feels like in my body and knowing like what I'm here to share, and then going, holy shit, that's big. And at the same time, like, but I would never give myself anything bigger than I could handle. I would never give myself anything more than I can handle. And I'm worthy of every bit of it because I planned it. I planned this shit. Like I planned everything that I'm going to experience here. And if I'm able to own that, then it makes it so much easier to receive it. I feel like that's also a part of like where you're at right now with receiving healing sessions and having people hold space for you in the healing process, because in that space of receiving, that's not something that people who feel unworthy do very well. And
Mm.
so that space of safety being provided for us and created and curated and held for us is really important as we come into our own and really own our gifts and really
Yeah.
be in them.
It's funny because when we talk about boundaries, like what came up is like, or at least what I've learned is that boundaries are just as much for me as they are for the outside things, the
Absolutely.
outside people. And I think when I know when I feel that, when I can embrace that, then it doesn't become this negative thing, right? Because we think of boundaries as this like really like
Yeah.
selfish way of living. And it's like, no, actually, this boundary allows me to show up as my best self
Yeah.
for you. And that reciprocal relationship that again, it's like breaking the codependency and the
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yay. I love that. Yeah. The mom wounds have been coming up for me
Oh, girl.
the last few months that I've been here. So it's like I actually the last month I would say in particular, like it was like, okay, time.
Mm,
It's time, because I've been going to see a chiropractor here who practices network spinal care, which is more of like it's an energy
ooh,
movement session. She's a very
nice.
gifted, intuitive person who
Yeah.
studied chiropractic, who knows how the body is supposed to look on the inside and then guides you through that movement. And it's an open forum. So there's like three tables and there's three people being worked on all at the same time. And she goes from one to the
Oh,
other. And you can actually feel the energy begin to like whirlpool and swirl in the room. I can
beautiful.
walk into the lobby, sit down in the waiting room in the chair, and I already start to like make all these involuntary movements because I'm starting to entrain before I'm even on the table because all of the energy in the room. So
Wow.
this is what I've been doing 2 days a week for the last 6 months. And it has been powerful for me because I needed that space to receive and to support
Mm,
me in coming into my own here, because moving to Texas was not planned, as you know. It was divinely guided and divinely demanded at that point. And it just happened. And I was like, do I have a choice? And the universe was like, no, you plan this. Like, you got to go do this shit. And I was like, but Texas, really? And now that I'm here, it's totally perfect. Like, I get it. I totally get it. I
yeah.
see it. But the receiving part for me has been so beneficial because I mean I was seeing people back at home. We were doing trade of services, and this I have paid into her business and
Yeah.
have not had to give anything back. And it's been really helpful for me to be in that
Mm,
completely and be able to go there for myself,
yeah.
let go, be guided, and then leave. And I don't have
Wow.
to do anything else in return. And so I've been really thinking about the whole concept of trade work and the boundaries there too, and
For
really paying
sure.
attention to why I'm doing it with someone if I choose to, because it's okay to do it. And to
Yeah.
also pay attention to how long I choose to do it and is it benefiting me anymore at some point.
That's right. Yep.
Those boundaries are super important for us as well because it's our livelihood. It's why we're here. I would love that we don't have to be paid to, live here, but that's the reality that we're living in at the moment in the human experience. And until that's different, this is what I do to attract abundance, to live in this space we call Earth.
Yeah.
So it's been very interesting to balance that and to give myself that gift also, because I did not feel worthy of it before, or I did not feel I had enough money to pay for that before, or whatever the limiting beliefs were. And so that's been really cool to do that. And then doing some trade work here and there, and then realizing, okay, when it doesn't feel in my body aligned anymore, then I just say, okay, I'm not able to trade with you anymore. Thank you so much. And not
Yeah.
feeling guilty about it, and not feeling ashamed either.
Yeah. That's right. That's so important. I love how you brought that up because that's been a huge thing for me too, is, when I first started my business, yeah, doing energetic trades
Hmm.
and work and I love it, right? There's
Yeah.
such a time and a place for it and it also taught me like what are my services worth, like
Hmm.
what does it feel like? It also makes you think about it in a different way. But I love that, Jess, because I think that's so important when you do that work to also just be mindful and honoring yourself and where does it feel right and where
Hmm.
doesn't it? And so yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, that's been something that's been definitely resonating with me. It's like, I think someone asked me recently, like, oh, let's do energetic work for the whole entire package you have. And I'm like, that does not feel right. First of all, I can support myself if we
Yeah.
do that. And yeah, it was just like, no, doesn't feel right immediately.
Yeah. Immediately
uh,
no. Immediately no.
hard pass.
Yeah, I have
But
felt that a couple of times too here, where like there's one person that I do a trade with on a weekly basis, and
yeah,
that trade feels very aligned and feels very natural and organic, and it feels right. And
yeah,
I continue to honor that. And she helps me too, right? And so, but the work that I'm doing at the jail right now, it's volunteer work. I'm there every Friday for 2 hours in my own time. I'm at Travis High School for 2 hours every Tuesday on my own time. And that is to build the bigger picture,
yeah,
to
yeah,
allow that to manifest. And
yes,
that, until I don't feel like volunteering is supporting me or benefiting me, then I won't do it. Or that will be the time for me to propose, hey, this is my livelihood. These are the results we're getting. This is the benefits that we're experiencing. And it would be wonderful to
yeah,
be compensated for the work and the services that I provide to the students and the faculty,
beautiful.
and to grow that, right? And to not,
Yeah,
because right now, if I'm not working, like I'm not
yeah,
doing sound healing, or I'm not doing energy work, then what am I doing? I'm just kind of sitting here. I could create stuff. Oh, that's time to work on me. Yes, that's awesome. And then
mhm,
if I'm not just doing it out in the community because I love it and I want to share with people, then where does that leave me too? So
yeah,
that delicate balance of feeling into the body, like again, like you said, like how do I feel in this moment? Does this feel aligned? No, it does not feel aligned. Okay, then I'm going to say no thank you, and I'm going to process any guilt that I feel about saying no thank you, and then I'm going to ask myself, what do you want then? What is more in alignment right now?
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. How you use that space of volunteering and dedicating some time because I do think there's definitely something magnetic about that, like seeing the bigger picture,
Hmm.
seeing what you want to build, and that's something I'm working on. Is like I definitely know that mentoring is a huge passion of mine. I've always loved that
Yeah,
part of even in corporate, and so I know I want to offer that, and so this idea of putting out something that again, volunteer my time because I know in the bigger space, I know I'm supposed to do that
yeah,
for the collective and build something a little larger. So I
yeah,
love that. I think that's such a powerful way of like utilizing time and your skill set in an effort to understand like, wow, I'm making space for something bigger to happen and putting something in motion and also doing something amazingly, rewarding. So
yeah. Oh, it's
I
so
love that.
fulfilling.
I love that.
So, a question for you to finish our time together. I asked you at the beginning to consider your being in your purpose, and what is the one word that you feel describes you being in your purpose now currently?
Mm,
Because you are in your purpose.
yes. Yes. I'm gonna take a second because I
Of
feel like
course.
there's a bunch of words.
Feel into the word that feels right for you
Um,
right now. One word that describes you being in your purpose. How does it feel to be in your purpose? That one word.
I mean, freedom. It's
Freedom.
being free. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love it. Yeah, freedom.
And I want
That's why we're
everyone
here.
to feel that.
Yes, yes, I
Yeah.
totally agree. And I love that freedom that I'm feeling here, like in my new space and in my new home and the new communities that I'm being a part of. And I wasn't feeling free in San Jose anymore. Not that it's a bad place, it just didn't feel free to me anymore. It didn't feel open to what I was bringing to the table. So I'm really grateful that it's opening for you and your space and your time, and you are feeling free to express yourself and to share the gifts that you're here to share because you do a beautiful job at sharing it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks,
Mm,
Evie.
absolutely. Thank you so much for being here today, Kristina. I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Oh, so much. Yes. Love.
See you
Love
later.
you. Bye.